I be, catching them. I be catching them just by way of the cycles and looking at what happened, when the sun was at solar maximum. You see, that's the thing though. This is why it's imperative to understand, like, when it comes to, getting stuck in religion, some people don't even get into the esoteric knowledge because they stuck in the Islam. They stuck into the religion, because if you want to get to the truth, you can't just be one dimensional with the knowledge. Because just in the Hebrew doctrine, they talk about how they don't want you to read no other manuscript except the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. But what about all these other books? They got all this other knowledge that's telling you about what's going to be taking place as far as like calamity and stuff. You got to be a step ahead of the game. You can't just be so confined. But that's what the religion is for. This is why we can't get to the truth. People are boxed in by their ideologies.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes back to even like one of the things that I want to have a good deep dive in on is like the separation, like this whole this whole separation thing that we see. Religion is already doing that alone, but a couple of shows ago, we had a bunch of people going back and forth about whether humanity began in Africa or it began in America. And it was crazy because at the end of the day, I share with you how I feel about it. My thing is this. It's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me because I'm looking at it as if, okay, let's just say if Mother Africa is our mother and America is our father, or if America is our mother and Africa is our father. Either way it goes, our people have traversed this whole entire planet. And if we're going to sit here and argue over something small like that, I don't even think we like really at the level where we are positioning ourselves to take the oppressor's foot off of our neck, because we fighting over dumb shit when we ought to be learning how we can elevate, form, coagulate together. United we stand, divided we fall, so we can figure out what we got to do to get rid of, that oppression. And I think that's where we got to really do the deep diving and the healing in regards to who and what we are, instead of judging, and passing judgment and shaming and talking down on folks. Like, lift them up, lift your fellow brother up, lift your fellow sister up. Like, nah, we don't need to be tearing them down. Like, when I saw your page, I'm like, yo, bro, it's dope. And I've tapped in because I'm not intimidated by your success. If anything, I love it because I told you off here, like, bro, I love your work. That's dope, man. Keep doing what you're doing because the people need that, But then you have gatekeepers and guardians of information that don't want to give people access because they don't want to see that person get further along or higher than them. And I feel like those are the ones we got to really keep an eye on.
What's crazy about that, though? Because one thing people fail to understand as far as like conscious leaders, you can't put yourself on a pedestal so high to where other people can't touch you. Because some people, when they get to a certain level, they act like they can't be touched. You're supposed to stay connected to the people, because the people is the ones who vilified your message in the first place. And that's how you galvanize, sustainable, communities and things of that nature. You got to stay connected to the people. See, this is another thing I don't like. People, they want the knowledge and weaponize it to create a European lifestyle, right? You're supposed to stay connected to the people. You can't forget what you was doing it for. So that, like I said, this is why it's imperative to heal, because this is where you begin to get people like Nature Boy, right? Weaponizing the spirituality for sexual, pleasantries and for the money and things of that nature, because he hasn't faced his demons, right? He was overly sexualized, taking people's money and things of that nature. So that's what happens when you're not healed. When you're not healed, those are the catalyst that follows up whenever you have the ability to become a leader and things of that nature. That's what happens.
And I never heard of that. Who is that person? You said Nature Boy? Who is that?
Yeah, this guy named Nature Boy. He had this thing called Carbonation, and it was like a coalition of, he had different women and different men, and he basically, created, ideologies and mindsets to make them subservient to him and worship him. And he weaponized, it's pretty obvious that something happened to him when he was younger.
It sounds like a cult.
Yeah, it was a cult. So that's how cults are, formed. Yep. They get this information from unhealed people that's pulling in other unhealed people.
Yep.
Hurt people.
Yes, sir. Right? That's facts.
So that's why I'm saying you got to heal first. This is why a lot of people be like, oh, well, I resonate with 607 Unc's message because we both come from the streets. No, the thing is to heal, to get away from the street mentality, not to vilify it. I don't care about what you're saying. If you're not healed, it's coming from a dark place.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything you're gonna do is dark. It's gonna come with an agenda. This is why you can dangle a bag of money in front of somebody's face and be like, "Hey, go push the Republican Party."
Yep.
Can't do
And
that
that's
with
why
me.
those do it.
And then I say you can't do that with me because I come from a balanced household. I had my mom and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't come from no broken home. I'm not saying I'm not trying to castigate people who come from that, but like I said, if you come from that, you need to heal from that and then give people edification.
Right.
So that's why I say like it's no reason for me to weaponize the information because all my information is going to come from a genuine place. I'm not trying to get money from people and trying to, weaponize it, to get ladies and stuff like that. That's a bunch of BS.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. And I feel like it's the people who've been, what they say, you got to go through some things to get through some things. You know what I'm saying? So like the people who've been through a lot, those usually make the best leaders. The ones who get healed, the ones who get refined, the ones who tap into inner self and who elevate themselves in their mind's eye. You know what I mean? Because they've been through so much.
Talked about Malcolm. You remember you had the show with Malcolm X.
Yeah.
How do you think he was able to get to where he got to? He healed.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? When he became a spiritual leader, he wasn't into the hedonistic culture. He wasn't messing around with women. The FBI, when they looked at the file, they said he was the most righteous man they ever seen.
Yeah.
Right? He came from the streets, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He came from the streets. He edified himself, got the knowledge. Then that's when he became a leader. See, the thing is, people, they getting a lot of knowledge, not healing, and then they end up in detrimental situations because they didn't heal. Right. Mm-hmm. So that, you know what I'm saying? Like, Malcolm X is the perfect example of, what we're talking about right now.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I always use him, especially when I'm talking to young people, because if there's nobody else that I personally relate to the way I relate to Malcolm, because his life path is very similar to my life path, almost identical in certain aspects. So it's like that connects with me. You know what I'm saying? Like that speaks to my spirit. And that's why I'm so much of a super fan of his, and like that's why I look up to him. That's why he's my hero, because when I looked at as a little boy, when I first heard of who this guy Malcolm X was, I remember seeing him and I just was like, yo, in my little young mind, it was like, whoever this guy is, he's the truth. Like he is like the most brilliant photo or visual I've ever seen of what I would, if I could define a black man, I would define it as him. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just how he had that kind of influence over me, like a magnetic pull. You know what I mean? It's never changed. So now I get the opportunity to talk to young brothers. He's the first person I talk about because I can relate. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's real, man. Like
I remember watching his movie when I was little, and I told my dad, I probably was about like in middle school. I said, when I first watched it, I was like, I want to be a Muslim. I said, why? I said, you just watch Malcolm X. I want to be like him. I want to be a Muslim. You know what I'm saying? But even though, my stepmother, she a Christian or whatever, but, she didn't like the sound of that or whatever. But like I said, man, as far as like that goes, Malcolm X is the perfect example of leveling up. Yeah. You got to face your demons to level up. You got to go through the darkness to get to the light. The same story of Lazarus, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Even when you're looking at the story of Gehazi, he had everything, right? And then he weaponized everything that he had, and God took it away. Mm-hmm. But like I said, you got to go through the darkness to get to the light.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And shout out to Juicy's Planet. Yeah, she said it means a lot to not come from a broken home. It does. And I'm going to tell you another thing, too. I love when I see that. And I love, like, my friends who I know that grew up with both. You know what I mean? Because I feel like the majority of people that I personally know didn't have both of their actual parents in their life, from day one. And then you had people like myself who might have had one and then had a step parent. Then you might have some who might have had one or, no other parent, or some that didn't have nothing or nobody. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many different layers to these dynamics. And a lot of that does play a role on your psyche and how you kind of show up in the world. Because if you haven't got past the traumas that's been bothering you or bullying you or affecting you since you were a child, then you're going to do nothing but grow and strengthen every aspect of who and what you are, even the negative aspects. So there in turn, where you see the projection of negative energy or the projection of toxic energy or the projection of men with feminine energy or vice versa with women with masculine energy, because the balance has not been set, because the healing has not been done. And like that's a real thing, that we got to definitely work on, collectively.
It reminded me, in that situation with 607, it just reminded me of the fact that it was a lot of kids, just people in my city. They don't like me for no reason, and there's no reason for them to like me. I haven't done nothing to them. I ain't said nothing to them. I stay to myself. I'm an introvert, so it's like I said, when you have a certain energy of authenticity, it's going to disrupt people's nervous system. You know what I'm saying? Where, like I said, it is going to manipulate them so much to the point they're energetically out of balance, so they have no other reason to attack you. They're going to attack you every time. Because, like I said, you become a mirror. You know what I'm saying? So,
it's real. Even back in the day, like when I was like out there, you know, in that Detroit red part of my life, listen, like for real too, though. I promise on everything. Matter of fact, what's even more funny is I used to have books on the block, and I'm serious too. And the crazy part is they were Dr. York's books. I remember that. Like I used to literally have his books on the block on all nighters. We hustling, and I remember having the books with me because I've always been that guy who loved to read, who loved to study, who loved to learn. And I dealt with a lot of the same things you did, I'm sure, because even in school. Like they used to, because I was born up top in the Northeast, I moved down to the Southeast in like 4th grade. So when I got down here, like I talked different. So when I was in class, like, man, you talk like a white boy. You know what I'm saying? Like because I taught proper English, but I'm like, nah, I don't know no white boy that talk like me. So if I sound different than you, then I just talk different, but I don't sound like a white boy. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a big difference between the two. But it's like, but it comes back to what you were saying that when you have a certain level of intelligence or information or knowledge or whatever, it could just be confidence. You know what I'm saying? People who have less than, they're going to automatically project because they feel inferior, which is self-inflicted based upon what you have, which they perceive as superior, where you're not even looking at them like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, that goes back to like how important the healing aspects are with all of our journeys, because when we are able to do that, that's what makes me look at you and be able to say, yo, that brother is doing his thing, and brag and tell other people about it, because I'm proud to see a young brother doing his thing like that, because you could be doing a lot of other bullshit, you know what I'm saying? But you're not. So I got to give credit to that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I've experienced what you've experienced, where there's some elders who don't want to see me do my thing because I'm not doing it the way that they want me to do it or how they did it. So it's like we're always kind of in that state of evolution, to where we still got to kind of be in the state of being in the ring to kind of to fight off the BS, but also to continue to manifest the things that are good, you know, that we came to the world to bring forth.
That lets you know that people are not spiritual as they believe to be, and they just dealing with the aesthetic of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Because, you know, that some people be like, they might look the part, but they don't think the part. You know, they still have a jealous energy, energy of envy. But, you know, it's like I said, you got to, you know, cultivate the balance in order, you know, to get to the next level. And you know, and it's a manifestation blocker as well. The more that you have jealousy, envy, or anything that, you know, to shackle somebody else's evolution, it's a manifestation blocker.
Yes, sir. No, I agree. Yeah, man. So there's a lot of them coming in, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the opportunity if there's anything that you want to share with the tribe before we get out of here. Because listen, I was telling somebody on here a few weeks ago, they were like, how much longer can you go? Like, man, I can go as long as I like. Nah, don't say that, because they'll go all night. Look, don't say that, bro, because look, you don't know this tribe, boy. They'll keep on coming and we'll keep on going. Right. So, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I definitely appreciate it, man. And the tribe showing a ton of love, man. Everybody showing love and appreciation for, you know, the work that you do, and, you know, coming through, man, and spending the time tonight, you know, chopping it up and dropping jewels, man. I knew it was going to be dope. I look forward to checking it out myself again. I can't wait, because it's a lot that has been shared, man. And so for that, did you want to share anything with the family before we get out of here?
Well, like I said, I got books and stuff coming up, and I'm going to, you know, Atlanta, June 28th. I got other stuff, working with other individuals, all that stuff coming up. So just be on the lookout for that. So June 28th, Stone Mountain, Georgia, in Atlanta.
I should. No, I appreciate it, bro. So Peace, family. We definitely appreciate all y'all for coming through. We appreciate the love, support. We definitely appreciate all the new subscribers, all the people who came through from Brother BDELL's channel, man, to show love and support, for him coming through in these Ashe streets. I definitely appreciate the love and support. Shout out to Zen's Mind. I agree with you 1,000,000%. It definitely was. I knew it would be. Yeah, man, I look forward to doing it again. Definitely when our schedules can align, I definitely look forward
I
to
appreciate you
chopping
bringing
it
me
up,
on.
man.
I appreciate you bringing me on here because you brought a lot of legends on here. So, from Dr. Kava and, Rod Hayes and I forgot his face. I forgot his, but yeah, Professor James Smalls. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of legends on your channel. So I appreciate you bringing me on here, giving, a young brother a chance to come on here to dish out and demonstrate the knowledge. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Listen, it's an honor and a pleasure, bro. And like I said, for me, I appreciate knowledge and information no matter where I get it from. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's a child in preschool or, a brother who's in his 20s or a young brother like who's in, your age range, whatever. Because at the end of the day, like you said, if you remove the ego, it shouldn't matter who you're learning from. If I can get value from somebody, I'm taking it. I don't care where it comes from because I know that's going to add to my tool belt. It's going to add to, what I could work with in regards to my journey to get better, do better. So it's like, that's where I really feel like there's so much more work to do when we talk about this healing thing, and especially like the emotional intelligence and the trauma. Like we have to address these negativities. I look at it like a cavity in a tooth, right? If you get a cavity in a tooth, it might not bother you every day, all day, but it's going to time to time show up and turn up on you, right? So if you don't go and get that thing checked out and get a filling or get it, get a crown or get it removed or whatever, or a bridge, it's going to come back and it's going to bite you in the ass. It's going to tear you up at some point in time. So I look at trauma the same exact way. Like we can't walk around with cavities because it's going to continue to decay. So we have to figure out how to face it, how to address it, how to look at it in the mirror and start chipping away at, healing from it and like getting through it. Because without doing that, we're going to constantly be in that hamster wheel of negativity, living in a toxic, internal environment, let alone external environment,
Yeah, it keeps you stuck in a 1260 time loop. It's going to keep you stuck. That's why you got people that loop in cycles because of the trauma. It's always a roller coaster. There's no evolution for that individual. So that means like you ever notice some people, they have a point they doing real good, then they fall off and come right. Cigar is really smooth. There's no type of synthetic energy connected to it. It's very organic. Like the most of the cigars I smoke is like acid and Java or whatever. They have a lot of flavors, and those flavors, create a form of chemicalization. So you don't have to worry about with those because those are straight from Honduras. They're organic. Ain't nothing to worry about. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things that's gonna put you on cloud nine.
Excellent, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it, my brother. Glad you enjoyed it. Let me I guess we could get started with some of these slides. Let's get started with some of these slides. First of all, let me see what y'all talking about in the chat. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to all of y'all in the chat. Yeah, I'm gonna drop the email during the show. I'm gonna drop the email for y'all. Y'all can send a donation. The donation through the mail is $30. And it's through PayPal. So I'll drop the email for y'all today during the show. All right. Let's get to this. Any particular order, BDELL, or just start rolling through them?
You can start rolling because they all work in conjunction, so you could put them all. Now, what you're looking at on these slides is a form of Kemetic spirituality that is associated with the goddess Net. So I'm just showing you by way of the hieroglyphics and, in ancient Kemet, the correlation between, life and death in the form of resurrection that is connected to the metaphysics of the being. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Same thing right here is showing you the goddess, the queen bee, and I'm just showing you the significance of it and how it's a part of historical timelines of antiquity. You can go to the next slide as well.
This look interesting.
So when you get into, ontological artifacts and transgressive art, it's going to demonstrate, the significance of the bead because, there's a lot of metaphysical properties when it comes to the beads.
Yeah.
You can go to the next slide.
All right.
Now, you had a king in Ethiopia named King Lalibela. And when you break down the etymology of his name, it means the bees recognize his sovereignty. Now, when you look at the top left, it's going to show you the churches of Lalibela. The churches of Lalibela is a representation that had a buzzing sound all throughout the whole, church and things of that nature. And the reason that is because when you understand the resurrection process, the number 13 is also equated to the letter B. Because when you look at the numerical sequence of 13, you get 1 and 3. 1 is a representation of union, and 3 is a representation of creative energy. And that creative energy, by way of divine union, creates the number 4, which is the foundation to build the matriarch. Because the bees in itself is also a matriarchal number. It's a solid foundation to where you build sustainable, communities and sustainable fifth dimensional civilizations. You can go to the next slide.
So the compass, the Freemasonic symbol, that's connected to the bees?
It's a form of building. They use it in Masonic culture, but the resurrection process, as I was telling you, is a representation of the number 13, which is a matriarchal number. And the matriarch vibrates on the 4 basic elements of nature that is facilitated by quintessence, which is the dodecahedron, the ethereal energy that harmonizes with the foundation of building up the matriarch, because all these energies that's a part of the ecological systems of nature is how you build that, sustainable nation, create the matriarch. So as I was saying, as far as like Freemasonry, it's just basically like a building block. That's what the significance is based on. Building a foundation just based on matriarchal principles that's way beyond the constraints of patriarchal energies.
Mm-hmm. I want to take this question from the chat early because I did have this as one of my questions. So I just want to get it out the way. Magical T said, is Beyonce a legitimate channel to the bees? I know a lot of people wonder that when they hear anybody talking about bees.
I wouldn't say so because of the faction and the industry that she's connected to. I would say that there's a malevolent energy that's connected to, her ideologies, but the bee is very significant when you're talking about the divine feminine energy. So it could be one of those things where she's using the industry to propagate the ideologies of the divine feminine energy that's connected to the frequencies of bees. So it's kind of like one of those things where you can't, you can't get, caught up into polarity. Stop trying to pick a side. So it's one of those things like you don't know if she's, for it. It's just one of those things where that the industry is based on hedonistic practices and they like to pervert and everything.
Yeah.
So I would say probably not.
Yeah, they definitely love to pervert everything. I seen you had this up here right here.
Yes. Now, as I was telling you about the 144,000 Akenic keys, we're going to get into that because this is all correlated to the bees. Now, as I was telling you before, the bees have a quantum entanglement processing system, meaning that they're able to read the vibration of humans on the planet. So they can only see the colors that's from the green chakra, the heart chakra on up. Now, when you go to the periodic table of elements, I was telling you before, when you look at the nomenclature title for gold, gold is short for aura when you look at AU. So the auric field is able to be scanned by the bees. So when you get into the esoterics, it represents a gold elixir because honey is actually a derivative of gold. So it's basically like a superconductor. So when in the esoterics, you go from lead to gold. Going from lead to gold is the alchemical process to activate the magnum opus that is connected to the neurological functions that is activated by the neurological interface to where you stream down intelligence. Because you have to be balanced energetically from the heart and the mind to activate the corpus callosum, because the corpus callosum in itself represents the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain that creates the wings of a dove. So that's why you've seen a lot of doves out there, because the vibration of these energies that was connected to the bees is what's creating a resurrection of Christ.
I've ever seen. So you're saying the doves represent Christ consciousness. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, the dove is a representation of the activation of the crown chakra. So it's a form of resurrection mentally. So like I said, that is the activation of the corpus callosum, because that creates the intrinsic frequency of the magnetites and dendrites in the brain, which ties the brain together to where you become a whole brain thinker. You cannot be holy until you're able to use your whole brain. That's why, you know, certain factions of Freemasonry, or when you graduate college, when you swing the tassel to the other side, that you rose up into a degree, which is basically an initiation process. So us going up to the mountain on Stone Mountain was an initiation of higher consciousness.
Wow. Yeah, I knew BDELL will break this down, man, family. Let's get to the next.
Birds represent patriarchy, and the bees represents matriarchy. So the union, this is a Freemasonic, you know, art, what you're basically looking at. And I'm just showing you, they understand the symbolism in itself. So when you're looking at the left right here, that represents the matriarch, and the man represents the patriarch, but the patriarch represents, you know, the birds. So the divine union of the corpus callosum is how you activate the hive mind within inside you. So this is why, as I was telling you before, you know, when you're able to activate that Christ consciousness, it cultivates a electrical vibration, because the carbon body in itself is photovoltaic. It has the ability to convert gamma radiation into energy. But that's going to go into something else, and I might demonstrate that as we get through these slides.
So do you think, like, let's say if it was just all brothers that went up there, like, you know, they had the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had the Million Man March where just the brothers came out, or sometimes they have marches where just the sisters come out. So if it's just one gender, this colossus, what did you say? What's that word?
Called a corpus callosum. It's basically the intersection of both hemispheres of the brain. It sits in the middle.
So it's just one gender. Well, we seen the birds and the bees, the masculine and the feminine. Well, is one gender able to bring that out the way we brought it out on Stone Mountain, being the divine masculine and the divine feminine?
Yes, because when you're tapped into the energy of spirituality, you're tapping into your feminine energy, which is right now.
Right, got you.
So it doesn't matter if you had a lot of masculine figures up there, you're still tapping into something feminine.
Got you. Okay, my brother. All right. You done with this slide?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get to the next one. It's good, y'all.
Yeah, this is another demonstration of ancient Kemetic, you know, hieroglyphics that they show you the significance of the birds and the bees. You can go to the next slide. So this is why I'm really showing you, you know, ontological, metaphysical artifacts, because it plays a part of the prophetic divination process.
Yeah, I think you got two more slides.
Now, what you're looking at right here, as I was telling you, the king of Lalibela, which is the king of Ethiopia, he was born in 1162 AD. Now, Lalibela, when you break down the etymology of the word, it means the bees recognize his sovereignty in old Agua antiquity. Now, due to the swarm of the bees, just like when we was on top of the mountain, we were swarming with a different intelligence, because the day before you had a meteorite that hit Blacksville, Georgia. Now, we're going to get into that as we get to the presentation as well. Now, this is the swarm of the bees that surrounded the future king at his birth, which his mother took as a sign of future rain. So the bees at the mountain is a sign of future rain. This is why we was vibrating on the frequency as saying Atlanta is Atlantis, because Atlanta is going to be the new epicenter of consciousness, where we're going to have rain, to where we're going to be, you know, connected to the ideology of the meek shall inherit the earth. And then what you're looking at right here is a Moravian symbol. The Moravian symbol is a representation of the Star of David, which is also acclimated to the tetrahedron that operates on a tachyon energy. So this is how you're able to break free from the cube, and the cube in itself is known as the Metatronic overlay. So the Star of David is actually an emulation of the tetrahedron that's connected to the Merkaba. So this is why I was saying the dualistic energies of the birds and the bees represents the divine feminine and the divine masculine. That's the only way you can activate the Merkaba. Now, one thing you got to understand about the cube in itself, the cube is being used as a mechanism to box you in, to keep you stuck on this planet. So this is why, you know, from the inception of birth, they inject PCP inside the hippocampus layer of the brain, which stagnates the Bathory gland to where you get your spiritual gifts from, such as, levitation and ESP, which is extrasensory perception. It keeps you stuck in a certain frequency to where you can't think outside the box. So this is also working in conjunction with the suprachiasmatic nucleus that is connected to the holonomic brain theory that they were talking about in the CIA documents. So the activation of the Star of David, which is the dualistic energies of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, creates a Merkaba. And a Merkaba is how you break free from the cube when you're looking at the sigil on the right, because the cube in itself is an encryption. So there's a force field over the brain, just like there's a force field over the planet. So they understood that, the nature, the ecological systems of nature placates to the metaphysics when you're talking about the neurological functions of those who have the ability to activate the carbon. So what you're looking at right here is a Maruvian symbol that's a representation of the Star of David, which is also equated to the Merkaba. So this is how you escape the cube, which is how you escape the matrix, which is also known as the demiurge, or to escape the fascicular monomod transporter gene, which gives you the propensity to believe in things outside of yourself. You don't become a god. You become a god once you leave the cube by activating the Star of David, which is the tetrahedron. It's the same symbolism that also correlates with who we are, genetically.
Indeed. Also, family, I just uploaded the video with Rod Hayes and Billy Carson. It's called the Merkaba Chariot of God, and it is a fire video. It's dealing with activating the Merkaba, and it breaks down the science of the Merkaba. So when you hear BDELL continuously mention that today, there's a new video on Patreon. Make sure y'all go sign up and check that video out. It's absolute fire, and it's definitely one of those videos that's going to unlock some codes within you. All right, family?
Stay on this line for a second. And then also, the B is also linked to the number 13. Now, there's also 13 moon cycles, right? So this energy of the cube, of the Metatronic overlay, it extracts energy from the divine feminine, right? Because this is what we talk about in Freemasonry and Masonry and all these occults or whatever. It's talking about the silver key. The silver key tether connects you to the 13 moon cycles, which is basically energy extraction. And that energy extraction operates on microscopic waves of energy. It sucks up the sustenance from your body by way of certain belief systems that keep you stuck in the box. So that's why I said, in order to escape the matrix, you have to resurrect the divine feminine energy. That's the reason why the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when he was coming from the waters, he had the black woman in his arms. That's the only way you can uplift fallen humanity. Because if the black woman heals and she heals her womb, that's going to eradicate the energies of her having a menstrual cycle. Because like I said, the moon is pulling on the energy of the woman that keeps them stuck inside the cube, which is basically the embodiment of the moon. Because a square and a circle is able to live on two different dimensional planes because they both equate to 360 degrees. So the cube is a representation of the lunar cycle, and the circle is a representation of the sun. So this is why I said the women, they're connected to the sleep spell of King Gu. They under the sleep spell. So when the so-called black woman heals, she's going to heal her womb. And when she heals her womb, that has the first organism on the universe, which is the prokaryotic cell, that's when the reset is going to happen.
Right. You said she's under the King who? Under the spell of who? You said? Who's that?
The sleep spell of King Gu is basically the moon. The sleep spell of materialism. But materialism in itself is a representation of the cube, which is the Metatronic overlay of what we call the demiurge that is cultivated by ego and emotion. You can go to the next slide.
Yeah, my fault. I had it on mute. Yeah, we go. This is the last slide. Then we're gonna get to some. We're gonna move on from there. What's this about?
Now you got to watch the movie, the TV series, The Man Who Fell to Earth. Now this guy, when he came to the planet, he came in a honeycomb structured spacecraft. So when you're looking at on the top right here, this is his actual physical form. the one, the guy behind it, when he became a human and he came to the planet, this is his human form. That's his metaphysical form when he came in, in an alien suit. Mm-hmm. So I was saying, this is all correlated, to, Planet Risk and Ilihun and things of that nature. He came from the 19th galaxy. So this is all connected to the mythology of a lot of Dr. York's publications and things of that nature. So that's the significance of it. So they understand the connection of the indigenous people and the bees. He came on a honeycomb space, honeycomb aircraft. But when he fell to Earth, they thought it was a meteorite. Now, this is why I said this is all esoterically connected to the meteorite that fell in Blacksville, Georgia, which is a form of an extraction process that came from the asteroid belt. So that's why I said the magnetism of the carbonated energy that was connected to the crystal, the feldspar and the quartz crystal, is what activated those energies of the animals, such as the doves and the bees and everything to be at the masters, at the gathering of the masters on top of the mountain.
That's what it was, right? That's what. That's basically what it was. Gathered of the masters on the mountain.
That's why I was saying, they understand the metaphysics behind, the spacecraft and the bees. And
so let me ask you, let's talk about this meteor thing then. Let's get a little deep into this because we're talking about the messages being relayed in between the different worlds. Because you did a video on Meteor and you was telling people to watch Meteor Man. I didn't get a chance to see that video yet. Why were you telling, and this was before the meteor landed, why were you telling people a couple of days prior to watch Meteor Man?
Because, the cosmic convergence is what creates our cosmos and operates on the Sufi order of the sun of green light. This is why I was saying, like, when you watch the movie Meteor Man with Robert Townsend, it shows you that he was vibrating the frequency of the ethereal energy. Because when the comet came or the meteorite came, he was able to harmonize with it because it activates melanocytes. Melanocytes are basically intelligence molecules that vibrates on an energy from the fact that the carbon body in itself is photovoltaic. It has the ability to convert gamma radiation into energy. So, not too long ago, they just said in Chernobyl Park, they seen a fungus. There was a fungus that has the ability to convert gamma radiation into energy, and it's called radiosynthesis. Now, melanin people, neuromelanated people, we have the ability to do the same thing. So when you get into Sumerian mythology, it talks about the nimbus radius of Melamu. Melamu is a divine radiance that is streaming down from the cosmos. So it's not a coincidence that they just came out with a variant that is also called the nimbus, because the nimbus is what creates the energy on how you become a god, which is Apophis. Human becoming God in the golden age. That's pretty much what I have for that.
I keep pressing mute. My fault. I keep pressing
mute. You good.
Let me read you something King Simon had sent me the day after the meteorite landed, and I want to get your take on it. He said, when they come first, something bigger is not far behind it, maybe 2 to 5 years behind. Mm-hmm. He says, when meteorites come to Earth, the magnetic energy is attracting them here from the so-called asteroid belt. That's what you just talked about. Mm-hmm. When a small part of it comes first, something bigger is not far behind. Okay, he's just repeating what. Okay, yeah. So he basically saying when the meteorites come, something's not far behind it. You agree with that?
Yes. In some of Dr. publication, he talks about how the magnetic energy of an extraction process of asteroids and meteorites and comets, it means that there's some over our atmosphere, which is what we call the mothership. He talks about that in his publication called "The Man from Planet Risk," which is also in connection with the man who fell to Earth.
Right.
And like I said, they thought that the man who fell to Earth, he fell, and they thought he was a meteorite. So, like I said, there's a connection with that because a meteorite has a form of gamma radiation. Just like, as I was telling you about the fungus and everything, all these energies is esoterically connected to these metaphysical rosters coming down from the cosmos, because you got to understand that carbon body is made up of 95% stardust, right? So they even show you in in the video game Super Mario. He eats the fungus, which is a mushroom. He gets bigger because that's converting energy into gamma radiation, and then he eats the star, which gives him his spiritual abilities. So the same thing actually takes place when you're talking about the genetic format of the indigenous people. So it's because they know that, you know, these meteorites have intrinsic properties to activate the 144,000 echinic keys. The echinic keys is connected to the thymus gland. The thymus, once it gets unlocked, that's when you get into the energies of neurocardiology, because the heart is 100,000 times more highly magnetic than the brain. So that means that you have to be balanced mentally and emotionally in order to activate the corpus callosum of the dove wings when you're talking about the activation of the crown chakra. So like I said, this is all basically metaphysical information that's based on astrological alignments, that's based on certain ley line points, because we was on the 33rd parallel. This is all connected. So like I said, there is no such thing as a coincidence, because, you know, everything in the system operates on a numerical sequence by way of binary code systems.
Indeed. Let me show you this. I want to ask you, do you believe what they're telling us? Fell in Metro Atlanta, they now have it in a museum, the Telescience Museum. And they're saying, I don't know if you've seen it. They're saying this is it right here. This is a piece of it. So let me see.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, they're gonna play a commercial. But yeah, that what I just showed, they're saying, family, that's it. What do you think? You think they keeping it real? You think they being honest? That's the meteor in that museum?
I think that's it, because I heard it was going for about $400 a gram. Pieces of it. The last one that fell, I think it was back in the year of 2017, and they said it was going for about, you know, $400 a gram. There's a lot of metaphysical properties that come with it. Just like I said, you watch the movie Meteor Man. When he harmonized with the meteorite, that's when he was able to activate his melanin, because the melanin itself is a quantum engine to the body. That's why every book that he touched, he was able to, you know, absorb the information, because he was pulling information from the subconscious mind to where he was able to activate the epikinetic body. The epikinetic body is what activates the Akashic records, which is the library inside your genetic format.
Man. You know, with all this talk about activating, let me take this off the screen real quick. You know what's also funny, while I pull something up, Red Pill said that the meteor that fell, it looked like the granite from Stone Mountain. It looked just like the granite from Stone Mountain.
How you know that you know, the Stone Mountain might not be a giant meteorite that didn't dematerialize? It just kept its structure over the course of, you know, time. And
oh shit!
Because you remember, I was telling you, it's made up of feldspar and quartz. It's a big ass crystal.
Damn, y'all. BDELL went there with it. All right, so yeah, go ahead, brother.
And then the day before we went on the mountain was Dr. Malachi York's birthday.
I heard that was his birthday today. That's when that's when that big storm broke out in Atlanta and Georgia.
Yep.
I mean, I'm talking about. Matter of fact, you called me because you was in Atlanta. You was like, "Yo, it's raining down here." I said, "It ain't start up here yet." When it started, because I'm 10 minutes from Stone Mountain. When it started, where I was, I mean, it was pouring. Pouring. All I kept saying in my mind is, "I'm glad it's raining now, because it should be over with and dried up by the morning time." So yeah, man, wow.
The charged ionized particles is what created the rain. Because we were swarming with intelligence, just like the bees were swarming around us. We were swarming with intelligence on top of that mountain. We was the one that was pulling that magnetic energy here.
Yeah, wow, this is good, y'all. Reality is getting good. Reality is getting interesting. I hope y'all enjoying yourselves, having a good time with this. Remember, this is just a dream anyway. So there's nothing to get too stressed about, regardless of what's going on in your life. It's just a dream, family. But let's have fun while we dreaming and really try to understand this and figure out what our purpose in this dream is. Somebody asked, did we see the minor BDELL dude there? Yeah, Tigo.
Salute to Tigo. He was in the building.
Yeah, Tigo was there. Tigo was there. He was there. He got videos all over Instagram. Go to his Instagram. You'll see all his videos on there. But let me show you this real quick, B. What you think about, when they talk about our powers being activated? One thing I noticed on the internet, on social media, is a rise in videos. Oh shit, where did it go? With dudes from jail, right? So dudes is from jail, and they doing the card tricks. Have you seen any of these?
Yeah, I posted one maybe like a year ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of them on there. I just see this one recently. Now I don't know if they real or not, but dudes that was locked up before told me, yo, I seen them do that shit before. That shit is real. They swear it's real. Now the one thing, dudes that's locked up in prison, they don't have the distractions we have. Give me your thoughts on this influx of videos coming from the prison showing brothers doing these magic tricks and having things levitate.
Because one thing you got to understand about when you're in a state of tranquility and you go in monk mode, that means that you don't have external distractions basically manipulating your frequency.
Right.
If you notice, you know what I'm saying, when a man is at his best when he's in prison or if he's in the army, he's working out, he's reading, he ain't having sex, he's not draining his sexual energy, because the sexual energy in itself is the apex of his spiritual gifts. That's the only way you can go from lead to gold. When you go from lead to gold, that is the gold elixir to activate the magnum opus to where you become a god, because that gold elixir is honey. It's the same thing. It's connected to the energy of the beast. So like I said, when you're in a state of solitude and you're in a state of tranquility, that puts you in alignment to activate the powers within you, because you're not manipulated by outside forces.
I could imagine how powerful we'll be, BDEL, if we just learn to turn our internets or our phone, put our phones down for a little while, man.
Right.
Like, wow, man. I've been practicing silence, tapping into silence and stillness a lot this year. So
sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is just shut the hell up.
Yeah.
But so that's why sometimes you gotta, go through a linguistic fast, because that's how you leak out energy. You start talking too much, and talking too much, you start thinking too much. You leaking energy everywhere, and it keeps you at a low vibrational state. So sometimes you got to fall back and just be quiet and just be still and just feel. Right. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is just shut up.
That's facts. That's facts. None fancy about it. Just be quiet. Most a lot of time. All right, so BDEL, let's get back to the bees real quick. All right, so beekeepers all over are complaining that their bees are dying off. Why are the bees dying off? I'm sure a lot of people will say this or that, but I want to hear what you got to say. Why do you think the bees are dying off, my brother, right now?
Because of the corporate influence like that's coming from the male trees, that's going to stagnate the energy. Because one thing about bees, they create a protein that's coming from an extraction process from pollination, and they carry that larvae over to the female trees to where it creates a form of